Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMC, Diwan-e-Ghalib, Meri Subani. To all our returning viewers, we are very happy you could join us again. And to the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now, if you were with me in the previous episode, you know that currently we are going through Ghazal 23 from Diwan-e-Ghalib. Dar-Khur-e Qahr-o-Ghazab, Jab Koi Hamsa Na Hua. We have already covered 6 couplets. They are already posted on the channel. Today we are going to get into the 7th couplet. As always, I'm going to read the couplet first and then we will get into the keywords, concepts and impression. So this is how it goes. Har-Bun-e-Muu se Dam-e-Zikr na tapke Khunab. हर-बुने-मुँह से दम-ए-ज़िक्र न टपके खूनाब, हमज़ा का किस्सा हुआ, इश्क का चर्चा ना हुआ. So let's do a very quick approximate translation. First line, हर-बुने-मुँह से दम-ए-ज़िक्र न टपके खूनाब. If pure blood does not drip from every hair root on the mention of it. Second line, Hamza ka kissa hua, ishq ka charcha na hua. Then it would be a Hamza story and not a discussion about love and passion. Now, in this couplet, Ghalib will once again follow one of his favorite couplet construction styles, and that is the if and then logic. If this happens, only then that will happen. And if this doesn't happen, then that won't happen either. The first line of the couplet will give us the if of the logic, and the second line of the couplet will give us the then of the logic. And we have covered impressions where he has used this logic in the past also. If you're a veteran viewer, you would know. Getting into the first line, Har-Bun-e-Muu se Dam-e-Zikr na tapke Khunab. Let's pick the key words. In fact, in this line, there are actually key word complexes. So, pehla word complex, Har-Bun-e-Muu. Har is every. Bun is the bottom or the foundation of something on which it rests. Muu is hair. So, Har-Bun-e-Muu will mean from every root of every hair. So that is the word complex. इस पे आप मिर्ज़ा गालिब का ये शेर देखें, हनोज मैं रमिए हुस्न को तरसता हूँ. हनोज मैं रमिए हुस्न को तरसता हूँ, करे है हर बुने मुँह काम चश्मे बीना का. The approximate translation is that even till today, even now, still I long for my union with the beloved. So much so that every hair root on my body is like an eye which is gazing at her, looking at her, desiring her, wanting to get into union with her. Just look at the vivid imagery, right? Every hair on the lover's body, every hair root on the lover's body is behaving like an eye, which is looking at the beloved and desiring her, wanting her, waiting for her. You can only imagine how many eyes are looking at the beloved at any point in time. अब्बास तबीश का ये शेर, मेरे बदन में लहू का कटाव ऐसा था. मेरे बदन में लहू का कटाव ऐसा था कि मेरा हर बुने मुंह एक घाव ऐसा था. So the approximate translation is that the blood flowing in my veins, the blood flowing in my body was such that it cut wherever it was flowing. It cut wherever it was flowing, and hence every hair root on my body was almost like a wound. So in this couplet, Har-Bun-e-Muu is compared to wounds. So again, you can imagine how many wounds on the body of the lover if the blood flowing in his body is making every hair root cut up like a wound. And then this last one from Mir Taki Mir. बाल नहीं आशिक के बदन पर, हर बुने मुंह से निकला दूध. बाल नहीं आशिक के बदन पर, हर बुने मुंह से निकला दूध. बल कर इसको जलाते क्या हो, आप ही जलता बलता है. Beautiful couplet. The approximate translation is, these are not hair on the body of the lover. These are not hair on the body of the lover. They in fact are smoke streams coming out of every hair root on his body. Therefore, why do you put so much strength and effort in burning him up? Look at him, he's already burning by himself. Can't you see the smoke coming out of his body? And again, here every hair root is compared to a smoke string, right? Something is burning and a string of smoke is coming out of it. A wisp of smoke is coming out of it. So again, vivid imagination, beautiful imagination. So Har-Bun-e-Muu is something that you are doing from every hair root on your body, from your entire being. That is the essence of that word complex. Moving on to Dam-e-Zikr. Dam is a moment. Also it can mean a breath. Zikr is mentioning something, expressing something, saying something. Dam-e-Zikr becomes at the moment of expression, at the moment it was said, at the moment it was expressed. इसके लिए अनवर साबरी का ये शेर देखें. हाय अंदाज़े तगाफुल कि दमे ज़िक्र वफ़ा. हाय अंदाज़े तगाफुल कि दमे ज़िक्र वफ़ा, याद उनको भी मेरा नाम नहीं आता है. So the approximate translation is, wo, alas, the manner and level at which her negligence operates, right? The neglect she has towards me, that when there is a mention of loyalty, she doesn't remember even my name. And by extension, I am the most loyal, the most faithful lover she has, but when there comes up the talk or mention of loyalty, she even forgets my name. कैफी आज़मी का ये शेर. बस एक झिझक है यही हाल दिल सुनाने में. बस एक झिझक है यही हाल दिल सुनाने में कि तेरा जिक्र भी आएगा इस फसाने में. The approximate translation is that the only hesitation I have, the only reservation I have in going ahead and narrating my tale of love to everybody is the fact that when I do that, your name will be mentioned in it again and again. And that is something I cannot risk, because that might lead to your ruswai, right? That might lead to your you becoming infamous. So I restrain myself. That takes care of Dam-e-Zikr. Moving on to Khuun. So Khuun is blood. We know that. Naab is a word complex made of two words, na plus ab. Na is no, ab is water. So naab becomes without water. And when you attach it to Khuun, Khuun-naab, it means blood without water. And here when they say blood without water, right, I love this word complex and it is beautifully used in Shairi. We will get through some examples. It means pure blood. unadulterated blood. A blood that is not mixed with water like sweat or tears, right? This is pure blood. So इमरान महमूद मानी का ये शेर देखें, कौन कहता है बदलता नहीं रंगत पानी, कौन कहता है बदलता नहीं रंगत पानी, अश्क छलकने तो वो खूनाब हुआ करते हैं. So the approximate translation is, who says that water never changes color? I can tell you that when a lover cries and sheds a tear, it is the color of pure blood. It is red. And Sajjad Sayyid का ये शेर, and it's a beautiful one. बहरे इशरत में सद्दाफ मिलता नहीं, बहरे इशरत में सद्दाफ मिलता नहीं, कतराए खून आपसे गौहर तराश. The approximate translation is, in the ocean of pleasures, in the ocean of joys, you will never find the oyster that houses a pearl inside it. You will never find that oyster because for a pearl in an oyster, what you need is a drop of blood, pure blood. कतराए खूनाब से गौहर तराश. It's that pure drop of blood that is required to make a pearl. So don't look for pearls in oceans of joy and pleasure. They lie in the oceans of grief and pain, where teardrops of blood are shed. So that takes care of all the key word complexes in the first line, But-e-Aainaa-Simaa, Dam-e-Zikr, Khuun. Now, we'll get into the first line and its impression. We will take a different approach for that. We will split this first line into three parts: where, when, and what. There's also a why, but that will come in the second line. So for now, where, when, and what. So let's get into the where. So the where is Har-Bun-e-Muu, from every hair root. That is where it is happening. Whatever we are talking about, that's where it is happening. Har-Bun-e-Muu. Now Har-Bun-e-Muu is a powerful phrase in Urdu poetry. We have seen some beautiful examples of couplets from other Urdu shayars as to how this word is used, what this word is used for. Har-Bun-e-Muu has this intense, all-encompassing energy around it. It is not a common state you experience. Har-Bun-e-Muu happens only during special circumstances, when you are feeling something intensely with every particle of your being, right? English vocabulary also has something of a similar phrase that we use a lot, right? From every pore. She was oozing joy from every pore. He was oozing pain from every pore, right? Whatever the scenario might be. So from every pore is also a phrase that emphasizes the strength and quality of emotion, right? When you feel something or do something from every pore, you are fully and completely engaged in it with all that you have in you. Now, that takes care of the where. Let's move on to when. So Ghalib clarifies the when by Dam-e-Zikr. So Dam-e-Zikr, like we discussed a few minutes back, is the moment of mention, moment of expression, moment of saying something. So that is when it is happening. Every time there is this moment when that thing is expressed or said, that's when it is happening. And then finally Ghalib clarifies the what. So what is happening, right? So what is happening is khunab. Pure blood is being bled. Unadulterated pure blood, when it is bled by someone, it is usually taken as a sign of intense and pure emotion behind it. Not only in Urdu poetry, but outside of Urdu poetry also, that is what bleeding pure blood means, right? We have some famous examples historically of this phenomena. First one, Jesus bleeding from every pore during his suffering in Gethsemane. In the Gospel of Luke 22, verse 43 to 44, it's written, "And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground." So, this is Christ before his crucifixion doing that last prayer, and the grief and the pain he's feeling is making him actually sweat blood. It is said that Leonardo da Vinci has also described and detailed a soldier who was sweating blood before he was going to enter into the battle. And then finally, there is a medical condition called hematohidrosis. It is a very rare condition and it causes an individual to sweat blood, even when they are not injured at all from outside. They sweat blood. It is usually caused by extreme levels of stress and excessive exertion. Such levels of stress and exertion are unbearable and happen due to either anticipation of imminent pain or anticipation of imminent death. Hematohidrosis has been observed among soldiers preparing to enter battle or prisoners facing execution. Now, all these examples we are quoting because it is important to know the underlying intensity of grief and pain that makes someone bleed pure blood with no injury, right? They are either crying pure blood from their eyes or they are sweating pure blood from their skin. The way Ghalib has designed this couplet, though it is not stated, it can be almost assumed that both the narrator and the listener, every time there is a mention of that thing, they bleed pure blood. What is that thing? We will get into in the second line. So, that takes care of the first line, which gives us the if portion of the if and then logic. And what is that portion? If. From every root of every hair, at the moment of mention, at the moment of expression, flows pure blood. That is the if. Now, we will move on to the second line. Hamza ka kissa hua, ishq ka charcha na hua. As I said, this line will give us the why. So, why is there pure blood oozing out of every hair root at the mention, at the moment of mention and expression of this thing? So, what is this thing is the why. Now, clearly in the second line, you can see there is Hamza ka kissa and Ishq ka charcha. Hamza ka kissa refers to this epic tale of the adventures of Hamza, and Ishq ka charcha would refer to any discussion or deliberation on true love and passion. For this second line, of course, Ghalib will draw a contrast. It is clear he is drawing a contrast between Hamza ka kissa and Ishq ka charcha. To understand this contrast, we will have to understand both Hamza ka kissa and Ishq ka charcha. So, Hamza ka kissa first. Hamza ka kissa has its foundation and roots embedded in an age old, beautiful tradition called Dastan Goi. Dastan is tale, story. Goi, when used as a suffix, means to tell. So basically, Dastan Goi is telling of a story. As we commonly call it or know it, storytelling, story narration. Dastan Goi is a 13th century Urdu oral storytelling art form. At the center of Dastan Goi is the Dastan Go, or storyteller, whose voice is his main artistic tool in orally recreating the Dastan or the story. It's assumed that spread of Islam carried Dastan Goi art form to Iran and then to Delhi in India. From Delhi, Dastan Goi made its way to Lucknow in the 18th century, which led to several artists, writers, and Dastan Gos to move from Delhi to Lucknow. In Lucknow, Dastan Goi was popular across all classes. It was regularly performed at diverse locations, including chowks, which were the city squares, private households, and afim khanas, which are the opium houses. Dastan Goi became so popular among opium addicts because what they did was they combined their prolonged intoxication and prolonged stories narrated by these professional storytellers or Dastan Gos into a single experience, which they would have in the Afim Khana. Each Afim Khana had its own storyteller or Dastan Go to entertain the clients. Whereas if you were rich, then your household would actually appoint a Dastan Go as a staff member. Now, the most common story themes that were popular for this art form of Dastan Goi were war, pleasure, beauty, love, and deception. So, this is the art form that lies in the background of Hamza Ka Kissa. Now, let's move to the actual Hamza Ka Kissa. Now, Hamza Ka Kissa, as Ghalib calls it in this couplet, is actually popularly known by many names like Hamza Nama, Dastan-e Amir Hamza, Adventures of Amir Hamza, or Akbar Hamza Nama. Now, Dastan-e Amir Hamza is an epic romance which is made up of fantastic adventures, wars, conquests, love, and heroic deeds of valor. The supernatural, magic, and enchantment of these tales are one of their kind. These tales can be traced back as early as 7th century, when oral narratives of the valor and deeds of Prophet Muhammad's uncle, Amir Hamza, traveled through Arabia, Persia, and the Indian subcontinent. It is very interesting that there is an excerpt from a letter written by Ghalib himself to the Nawab of Rampur that talks both about Dastan Goi and Hamza Nama. So on August 21st, 1865, Ghalib writes to the Nawab of Rampur, "The tale of Hamza is a work of fiction written by talented men of Iran in the days of Shah Abbas II, 1642 to 1666. In India, they call it the tale of Amir Hamza, and in Persia, the secrets of Hamza. It was written something over 200 years ago, but it is still famous and always will be." Ghalib goes on to say that he has written an ode in the Nawab's praise, which he encloses, incorporating characters and incidents from the Hamza story, and he hopes the Nawab will like it. So very interesting that Ghalib was clearly influenced by this epic of much renown, right, across continents. And here he mentions it in the letter through the Nawab, and then, of course, we are going through a ghazal which has it. Now, one more important and interesting thing to know about Tale of Hamza, right, or Hamza Nama, is that Dastane Amir Hamza thrived at the court of Emperor Akbar, who was so fascinated by the stories that he commissioned illustrations for them. Because, as we mentioned, this was all oral storytelling. There were no books, there was no text. It was an oral storytelling art form. Akbar was the one who commissioned illustrations for these stories, and 1400 paintings to be precise, for which he engaged over 100 artists, gilders, and bookbinders. And this huge team, one of the biggest, it is said, were able to complete this task in 14 years. These paintings, the ones that have survived, some are in the museum in Vienna, some are in the museum in London. I will put a link for them either on the end screen or in the description of the episode in case you want to go through them, because that was a huge endeavor. Thanks to Akbar, these oral stories took form of paintings, and there was a visual attached to them. So that is the background of Hamza Ka Kissa, the art form in which Hamza Ka Kissa was told, what Hamza Ka Kissa actually is. Now, the question comes, why use it in this couplet, right? Why mention Hamza Ka Kissa? Why use it as a contrast to Ishq Ka Charcha? So, in DGMZ's humble opinion, Ghalib's deliberate usage of Hamza Ka Kissa has two main objectives. Number one, draw our attention to Dastan Goi, or the storytelling art form, the style of narration, its ambience, its overall vibe was something he wanted to focus on or draw our attention to. The second objective was the magical, fantasy-based, vivid, vibrant, lofty descriptions of tales in Hamza Nama. So those were the two things he wanted to probably draw our attention to by quoting Hamza Ka Kissa. Clearly, Dastan Goi is the setting for Hamza Ka Kissa, a setting where the Dastan Go is enjoying narrating the story in a very animated way, and the listeners are equally enjoying listening to this vivid narration of battles and fire-breathing dragons and jinns and romances and heroes, wars, trickery, treachery. All the, what do we call that? All the ingredients for a recipe which is very, very fun-filled, right? Teases all your senses, so to speak. That is the vibe of Dastan Goi and Hamza Ka Kissa, and probably is the exact vibe that Ghalib wants to bring to our attention by quoting it. Now, let's get to the second part, Ishq Ka Charcha. Right? Now, Charcha is an interesting choice of word by Ghalib. And like we always say at DGMZ, just like a jeweler, right? Each and every word, each and every syllable was very deliberately set in the ornament of his couplet, right? So why Charcha? Charcha for Ishq, Kissa for the tale of Hamza. What is the difference? Well, Kissa is usually used to describe some kind of tale, some kind of story that is circulating and spreading, right? Sometimes it might also be used to describe almost gossip kind of tales and stories. So that is a underlying nuance that word किस्सा carries with it, right? आप इब्ने इंशा का ये शेर देखें, मालूम हमें सब कैस मियाँ का किस्सा भी, मालूम हमें सब कैस मियाँ का किस्सा भी, सब एक से हैं, ये रांझा भी ये इंशा भी. So the approximate translation is, I know all the stories. I know all the stories, the one about Cass, Mr. Cass Mia, right? Cass is another name for Majnu from the famous story Laila Majnu. Of course, DGMC has a whole mini-series dedicated to that love story. And then he says, I also know the stories of Ranja, another very famous lover. And then I also know the story of Insha. They're all the same, right? So the couplet captures that vibe we were talking about, right? Stories making rounds over years and years, right? Often quoted stories. Charcha. Now, charcha, on the other hand, is used to describe a discussion, a debate, is used to describe details around a topic, sometimes even bordering on analysis and deliberation. So a different connotation when compared to kissa, which is just this floating story that is going everywhere and anywhere, right? Charcha, on the other hand, is a little more focused. It has a little more to its objective in terms of discussion and deliberation. अगेन इब्ने इंशा का एक शेर, कल 14वीं की रात थी शब भर रहा चर्चा तेरा, कल 14वीं की रात थी शब भर रहा चर्चा तेरा, कुछ ने कहा ये चांद है, कुछ ने कहा चेहरा तेरा. Approximate translation is, last night was a full moon night and all night there was a deliberation, there was a discussion, there was a debate about, some said it was the moon, some said it was your face, and the debate continued because it was a full moon night. So, kissa and charcha, Ghalib is using to draw a differentiation. Though both stories are being narrated, Hamza ki story and Ishq ki story, though both stories are being narrated, we believe Ghalib differentiates between the format of narration, right, by using kissa for Hamza and charcha for Ishq. Now, we already have a very good insight into the background environment of storytelling for the Hamza tale because of the context we set, right, through Dastan Goi and Hamza Nama. The question comes now, what is the background or environment to the storytelling of the story about Ishq? What is the vibe? What is the background? How do we understand that? Well, we get that from the first line. The environment, the vibe in which, the setting in which the story of true love and passion is narrated is given to us in the first line. Har-Bun-e-Muu se tapke Khuun. And yes, we have deliberately omitted na from it. So, Har-Bun-e-Muu se tapke Khuun. When that happens, when every hair root, at every moment of mention and expression, bleeds pure blood. That is the type of environment in which the story of true love is narrated. Ishq ka charcha happens in a setting where both the narrator and the listeners bleed from every hair root at every moment of mention of the story of Ishq. So extreme is the pain, anguish, and misery attached to a tale of true love and passion that both the narrator and the listeners feel this pain, anguish, and misery. They feel it wash over them and drown them in itself. In parallel, Ghalib, without asking or saying anything, is also compelling the reader to think that if narrating and listening to this love story is causing me to plead this way, what would have the lovers endured who actually lived this story? And that is right there is the power of the unsaid in Ghalib's poetry, right? He makes you not only focus on what's written in his ghazal, he also very, very masterfully makes you think about things that are not written but are clearly evident still, the unsaid. In the second line, Ghalib, by using these two stories, draws a contrast difficult to understand, but once understood, even more difficult to ignore. Per Ghalib, if there is a gathering for storytelling where the narrator is extremely talented in his narration and he is making his listeners enjoy the story in a vibrant, animated, magical, musical, colorful way, then you can be 100% sure that this is just a story and it is not a true love story. So that takes care of the second line, Hamza ka kissa hua, ishq ka charcha na hua. Now let's take a step back and look at the couplet in totality. Per Ghalib, in this couplet, if you are looking for an actual, sincere, true love story, then be ready for a very different experience from the usual storytelling dastan goi experience. Story about true love and passion does not need the talent of a dastan go. The story of true love and passion will leave an impact on its listener by its sheer truthfulness and rawness. This story, the moment it starts, the moment it is mentioned, Dam-e-Zikr, right, will make you start to bleed from every pore or every hair root, as in the couplet. Every time this story is expressed, it will make the narrator and the listener actually participate in the bloodshed, in the bloodletting that the lovers went through. ऐसा लगता है ये कहानी खून बहाए बिना, खून रोए बिना ना तो सुनाई जा सकती है और ना सुनी जा सकती है. Ghalib warns, don't come with rosy spectacles, expecting tales and fables of magic and fantasy like the ones you heard from Hamza's fables, right? Come prepared for rawness and pain. It's not magic, it's not fantasy. True love, true passion never is. And once again, in a style which is so unique and so impactful, Ghalib gives his readers, right, yet another way, yet another clue on how to differentiate between exaggerated, dramatized stories and stories of actual truth, actual true love and passion. This is not the first time Ghalib has set up a criteria for his readers to differentiate between the true and the false in relation to the matters of heart. ये गालिब का स्टाइल है. He always empowers his readers to differentiate between the falsified, camouflaged version of things and the raw, true version of things. This is bringing to mind the contrast we went through when we were going through Havas ko hai nashate kar kya kya. That one had a couplet. क्या couplet था वो? Give me 1 second. हाँ, फरोगाए शोलाए खस यक नफस है, हवस को पासे नामू से वफा क्या. If you want to see the style of contrast, in that couplet Ghalib is contrasting between lust and love. I will put the link in the end screen. If you're interested, you can access it. So that kind of brings us to the end of today's impression, where we see Ghalib differentiate a true story, a true story of true love and passion from other stories. No matter how famous, no matter how popular, no matter how old, no matter how time tested, but Ghalib, if it is not making you bleed blood, pure blood, from every pore, from every hair root on your body, it is not a story of true love and passion. Because that's what a true story, that's what a story of true love and passion will do to you, whether you are narrating it, whether you are listening to it. Now, we are going to end today's impression with two couplets, both from Ghalib, which are excellent examples of his unmatched shairi around the blood that flows in the lover's veins. We think they will be a beautiful ending to this episode. So, पहला शेर, रगों में दौड़ते फिरने के हम नहीं कायल, जब आँख ही से ना टपका तो फिर लहू क्या है. The approximate translation is, the mere fact that it is flowing in my veins is not enough for me to believe it is pure blood. Only and only if it drips from my eyes as tears of blood will I be convinced that the blood running in my veins is pure blood. That is the test of pure blood for me as a lover. Ghalib captures well in this couplet the difficult task and test the lover's blood is destined for. And then, in heart-wrenching honesty that pulls at your soul, Ghalib also confesses with equal eloquence in this couplet what it does to the lover. So, ऐसा आसा नहीं लहू रोना, दिल में ताकत, जिगर में हाल कहाँ. It's not easy to weep blood. It's not easy to shed tears of blood because it requires a different level of strength in your heart. एक अलग ही ताब चाहिए इस चीज़ के लिए. And just because the lover does it, is destined to do this, doesn't make it easy. It is very difficult. But he will do it. He will do it. So, that takes care of Har-Bun-e-Muu से दम-ए-ज़िक्र ना टपके खूनाब, हमजा का किस्सा हुआ, इश्क का चर्चा ना हुआ. I hope you enjoyed the impression. As always, I will request you to share your comments, your feedback, your thoughts about the episode. As always, I will let you know that that is the most motivating, encouraging part of this whole effort that we put in putting these episodes together. Now, for the new viewers, as always, a very strong recommendation to check out the episode titled Introduction to TGMC, because it will give you a good insight into the motivation and inspiration behind this podcast. What are we trying to do here every week? The homepage of the channel has a lot of playlists segregated by various topics. Feel free to surf through them and access topics that interest you. I am now going to go ahead and end this episode. I'm sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and thanks for watching.